our ingredients into a couple different categories. We have 5 juices to start off with here. Did labeling, and I put amounts on each one. You should have at least that much. Some of them maybe a little bit more, just in terms of rounding and pouring. But first off, we have pineapple juice, lemon juice, grapefruit juice, ruby red is my preference, passion fruit juice, and lime juice. Okay, setting those aside for just a minute. We have coconut milk, agave simple syrup, and cinnamon honey simple syrup. And then we have our 4 liquors, our whiskey, tequila, mezcal, and rum. In addition to that, we have a couple of eggs and an orange. And lastly, some grapefruit soda. Preference is Wegmans there, but any grapefruit soda, regular soda will do. What I'd like to do is get a drink moving for everyone. I think the first one we'll start with is the whiskey sour. Now, this cocktail, I did put 2 versions of this cocktail in the recipe book and in the ingredients, so you can make it with or without an egg white. My preference is an egg white, but it doesn't have to be. You can have it without an egg white just fine. I know that was some, for the last one, if anyone joined us, there were some people that were hesitant to use egg whites. Perfectly fine to make a whiskey sour without one. It is an optional ingredient. What the egg white does is it gives it a bit of a frothiness and body for the cocktail. But again, it doesn't have to be. So as we look at it, our equipment set for this is going to be a jigger, a shaker set. We have our Hawthorne strainer and a mesh strainer. And lastly, a glass to put it into. I'll set that aside. When we're building cocktails, we want to build with the least expensive ingredient first, or the ingredient that is going to cause you the most problems first. So in this case, if you're having an egg white, let's start with that. For anyone that wants to have this cocktail without the egg white, hold on a minute. I will make both versions, but we'll start off with the one with the egg white first, and then come back and do the other one. So just bear with me for just a minute. We'll do both of them together. Always crack your eggs on a flat surface. Break in half. Shuffle the yolk back and forth. And there you go. After that, we're going to need our lemon and lime juice, and also our agave simple syrup. Let's make it a little easier for everyone to see. I like mixing lemon and lime for sours. You don't have to. If you prefer to just use lemon juice, perfectly fine. But I prefer to mix them, give them a little bit of a depth of flavor. So it's going to be 0.75 on the agave. 0.25 on the lime, and 0.75 on the lemon. And last, we're going to do 2 ounces of our whiskey here. Now this is bourbon today, but it can be used with any whiskey. By the way, when we're talking about a whiskey sour, you can very easily make a variation on this where instead of agave simple syrup, maybe you want to do maple simple syrup and mix it up a little bit. You can do it with different acids. If you really like orange juice, you can use orange juice as part of your mixture of acids. All of that is perfectly fine. It's just finding out the right balance for the ingredients that you want to use. So when we're making a sour, we're going to, let me get these out of here, do what's called a dry shake. So we have all of our ingredients in here now. You put the cap back on really hard, and we're going to give it a couple shakes. Don't continue to shake it. We want to give it a couple of quick shakes and then stop for a minute, and I'll show you why. So A couple really hard shakes. You'll start to feel the pressure build up. You want to stop for a minute, release the pressure before you begin shaking again. If you keep shaking this drink without releasing that pressure, it's going to end up all over your shoulder. Then go back. Shake again. Release, and what you'll see is you'll see some froth build up, a really nice foam. Let's see if we can get, that's what you're looking for with the foam there. You want to get that building up in the drink. You got to really, for shaking, let's see, we'll tilt this up for just a second just to kind of show. You really want to get a vigorous sort of sideways shake. So you want to hold the shaker sideways, and it's back and forth as best you can. If you're going like up, like this is not going to give you the froth that you want. Up and down is not going to do it. You got to go back and forth, have it being sort of parallel to the ground. Everyone good there? Anyone need another second with the shaker? Any questions about the shaking? Okay, let me check the chat, make sure. Okay, clear in the chat. All right, once you get that far, you're gonna see that the volume has built up a little bit in the cocktail. That's what we're looking for. Now we're gonna add some ice. When you put ice in a drink to shake it, you want to have more ice than you think you need. You don't want to have less. So there should be ice coming over top of the liquid. That's what you want to see. And it's just a couple of quick shakes. Now, any drink that I shake with an egg white, I want to make sure that I'm pulling that through a mesh strainer just in case there's any pieces of egg left over, any pieces that didn't get mixed in properly. I also think that it helps build a nice head on the top of the drink. And just tap the side of the shaker when you're finished. And that drink is complete. For garnish, what I like to do for this is drop a couple of drops of bitters on top, just for some aromatics. You see, just sort of, let's see if I can get an angle here where it looks all right. Just 3 drops, and then I'll swirl them around a little bit. And that's really just for aromatics. You'll taste it a little bit, but that's more for the aromatics. When you bring the glass up to your nose, you'll smell those bitters and that depth with the citrus from the sour. I think there's somebody in the waiting room there. All right. Any questions about this? Don't hesitate to ask any questions. If you have anything, really, there are no bad questions to ask.
Should there be ice in the glass?
I don't put ice in the glass for a sour. You certainly can, but that's not something that is, if you like it, great. I don't think it's needed.
Was it just one egg white?
Just one egg white. Yep, one egg white per drink. Okay. We'll do is we'll take a second, and I will make the other whiskey sour without egg white. And then we'll take a minute and catch up. All right, so for without an egg white, you're essentially making sour mix on your own. So some places, if you are having whiskey sour, it's just whiskey and sour mix, and that's perfectly fine. If that's the case, though, I want to make the sour mix, if that's the way you like to do it. And I want to have a combination of a couple of different citruses with the sweetener that is going to be added. And when you make it yourself, you have the ability to make sure that the sweetener that you're using is a sweetener that you like. It's not high fructose corn syrup or anything like that. We use agave for ours. You could use a normal simple syrup if you'd like. My preference is agave on sweeteners there, but again, that is, a lot of these are up to your preference on what you'd like to do. So for the without egg white recipe, we're going to start with a 1/2 ounce of agave. Quarter ounce of lime. 1/2 ounce of lemon. And then another 2 ounces of whiskey. Now, because there's no egg white in this drink, there's really no need for a dry shake. We're going to go straight to the ice. However, we will also put ice in our glass. If you're not having egg white in the whiskey sour, I do think it should be served over ice. Good vigorous shake. When you're pouring over ice, there's not really any need to do a double strainer or a mesh strainer because then the ice chips are going to be mixed in here, so that's not really a concern. And this is our whiskey sour without egg white. Now you could do the same thing and put a dash of bitters over top if you wanted to. It's not going to sit like it did on the egg white foam. So I just want to kind of move around a little bit. It'll still give you a bit of the aromatics. Cheers. Any questions about that version?
No, but it's very good.
Awesome. All right. Now that you have a drink.
One quick question. Can you,
Go ahead.
do you always make one drink at a time, or can you make two at a time?
With an egg white drink, I will always make it one at a time. Your shakers, I mean, this is a pretty good size shaker. This is, I think, a 32-ounce shaker. With this type of shaker and our shaker here, you're going to have trouble creating froth with 2 egg whites in there. You're not going to be able to get the sort of the speed built up in your shaker to get the froth that you want. So you're going to be sacrificing that if you start doubling up egg white cocktails in the same shaker. Now, with the non-egg white version, there is enough space to do 2 cocktails in there. Again, I just don't have, I'd be wasting it if I was making 2 right now. But there is enough space to do it. Egg white drinks, 1 per shaker, and really just kind of do it per order that you need there. Any other questions?
For the whiskey,
Yes.
would you just go with like a typical house style whiskey, or?
So with the, I don't think you need to go too high, too expensive with the whiskey sour whiskey. You have so much else going on with the citrus in there that a nice standard, $20 bottle is going to be perfect for the whiskey you need there. You have Jim Beam bourbon in yours, which I think fits and it's the type of whiskey that I would put on a menu. Is priced right for us that we can sort of price it at a level that is, I think, appropriate for a guest to see on a menu, where we're pricing it at maybe $12 or $13. If we did something that was more expensive, we'd have to price the cocktail up a little bit more. And I don't know that you would be able to notice the difference. The bigger difference that you could do is switching the type of whiskey you want to your use. If you used, say, a rye instead of a bourbon, you would get a spicier whiskey sour. I would enjoy that. I really like rye though. And something like Rittenhouse rye would be a rye I would suggest there. And I'm a huge fan of Dad's Hat. I just don't think you need it for this cocktail. I would rather have Dad's Hat rye on a cocktail that is more liquor forward, where I can taste the rye more than something like this, where it's going to be mixed in with so many other flavors.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So now that everyone has a drink in their hand, we are going to start our milk wash. So if you look down to the last recipe on the list, this is our coconut milk wash pina colada. Now, milk washing has been around for a couple hundred years. Ben Franklin actually published a recipe for milk washing in the late 1700s. Now, there was a real need for clarifying your spirits back then because you were getting some really stringent flavors that were not palatable to sip straight whiskey or straight spirit like you can now. You can get a bottle off the shelf and pour it in a glass and enjoy it. Back then, you really couldn't do that. So they need to come up with ways to clarify your beverage and clarify your spirit and make it a little bit more palatable. So milk washing is one way to do that. I am going to use, you need a couple of containers. I'm just going to use these clear quart containers so you can see what's going on in my glass. And you also are going to need a coffee filter. Everyone should have gotten that in their box. So we're going to set the coffee filter to the side for just a moment. Our ingredients for this one, we have 6 ounces of rum, 4 ounces of agave, 2 ounces of passion fruit, 2 ounces of pineapple, 2 ounces of lime, and 2 ounces of cold coconut milk. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mix our rum, agave, passion fruit, pineapple, and lime together. You can actually do that in this bottle. There is enough space that you can just pour everything together. So we have our 6 ounces of rum. This is built to make one batch together. So there's 2 cocktails in this. We're going to make 2 cocktails together. So 6 ounces of rum in this bottle. I'm just going to make everything straight in there. Now, you started out with 4 ounces of agave. We've used so far 1.25 ounces, so you should have a little bit extra, so I am going to measure this. So we just need 2, excuse me. There we go. So we're going to do 2 ounces for this drink. That should leave you with about 3/4 ounce for something later.
Do you mind just repeating what we're mixing right now in the rum
Sure.
bottle?
So you have your rum. The first ingredient we're putting in is the agave. We're doing 2 ounces of agave. The next ingredient is going to be the passion fruit juice. We're going to do 2 ounces of that. And that should finish what you have on the passion fruit juice.
In the ingredients in the recipe, it says 4 ounces of agave.
Yeah, I apologize. I realize I'm not. The 4 ounces of agave is the amount that you were given in the box. That 4 ounces is used for 2 drinks, though. So it's in this ingredient, in this recipe, it's 2 ounces in the mixture, and then you'll use up to 1.5 ounces in the other cocktails with the whiskey sour. So you should not have 4 ounces left. You should have 2 and change left in your bottle. I apologize if I should have been more clear on that.
What if we have less than 2? Because we put 4 in the whiskey sour.
So in that case, we're going to need to make a sort of makeshift sweetener. Any sweetener can be mixed in here. I'm trying to think what would be, so there's two things that I think most people would have in, or three things that I think most people would have in their cupboard. One would be just making a simple syrup, which would just be sugar and water. And you can do that 1-to-1. You could make a maple syrup, simple syrup, again, 1-to-1, or a honey simple syrup, 1-to-1 honey and warm water. If you don't have the agave there, all of those will work just fine to sweeten the cocktail to the right amount.
Okay, we have all of that. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, I would probably recommend for this cocktail, the just sugar 1-to-1. You can just sort of get a quarter teaspoon or a quarter cup measurement and go from there and just sort of mix them even together. Just try to get it so that the sugar is diluted all in with the water. After the passion fruit juice, we're going to do 2 ounces of pineapple juice.
I just have a question though. Weren't you saying this is for 2 cocktails because we have 6 ounce rum?
This is for 2 cocktails, yes.
Okay. So
we're making one batch together that will be able to divide into 2 drinks when it's finished.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And then lastly will be the rest of the lime juice.
Yeah. How much lime juice did you say?
2 ounces there.
Thank
It
you.
should be the rest of it. And if you're a touch short on the lime juice, it's fine. We have a ton of acid in here. So with milk wash cocktails, you want your base mixture to be very acidic. You could actually taste this if you'd like. It's an acidic mixture. It's not pina colada yet. We don't have any coconut added yet. So, but you can certainly taste it. It would be good to taste it and see what happens and the acidity and how this changes with the milk washing technique. So just a little mixture just to get this incorporated. And then what we're going to do is in the bottom of a container, you want to put the coconut milk in by itself. You want to get yourself a spoon and your mixture ready here. And I'm going to try and tilt this down so you can see what's going to happen. So as soon as we pour this in, this mixture will begin to curdle. That's exactly what we want. We want to have a quick pour right into the coconut milk, let this curdle for a second, and then let it sit for a minute. So everybody's good. I'm only gonna be able to do this one once. So see, straight in with a little bit of speed, just enough to sort of mix up the coconut milk and get it incorporated. The only thing you would do to mix is if there was a corner that was not touched, that's the only thing you're going to be doing. After that, you want to let it go. Now, you'll see it's already starting to curdle. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, this can be done with regular milk. I prefer coconut milk because I try to make as many drinks dairy-free for the menu as possible. Just to open as many people to those drinks. All right, and then our last step is going to be to take our coffee filter. Now you can use a strainer for this, anything you'd like, however you'd like to put the coffee filter over or something. You can use a larger container, and it can be something like, let's say you wanted to do it a little differently, and give me a second. I sort of have this as like a small operation. If you want to do something a little larger, you can certainly do something like this and use a larger strainer and just put your coffee filter right in here.
Oh,
Again, it's your preference, whatever you'd like to do. This is just sort of the way that I've gotten to do it, where I'm just folding the coffee filter over the outside of my cup. Now, with some milk washes, you'll hear that they need to sit for a day. You can do that. You can let this sit. Not much is going to change to it. And because we're using a coffee filter, we're going to get most of everything out that we want to get out. So it's not necessary to let it sit too much longer. The important part of this, though, is to pour steadily. So you don't want to go shaking this part around. Anything that we do now to disrupt this is going to make filtering it that much harder. We want to keep the curds that we have and let them get caught up in the filter. So that is going to be best accomplished by pouring this slowly and steadily. You can go back twice if you are nervous about overflowing wherever you're pouring into. That is perfectly fine. I'm probably going to do about half of my mixture just to start. And almost immediately, you should start to see a liquid coming out the bottom. And that liquid should look much clearer than the liquid that you started with. Actually got everything in mind. Now you will get some ugly remnants in this container. Yes, that doesn't look great. I'm gonna get rid of that. And this, now we will let this sit for a few minutes while we make our second drink and come back to this for our third drink. Any questions about this so far? I know I'm trying to do something a little ambitious. I hope everybody's able to stay with us here. Good. I got a couple thumbs up.
whoops.
I heard a whoops. Okay, not so good on the whoops.
Whoops.
What is the whoops? Is there something I can help you fix?
The strainer fell into the container.
The
Ew.
strainer fell into the container. You might need a new coffee filter.
Okay, I have coffee filters.
Yeah, if that happens and you sort of contaminate both sides of the coffee filter, you probably will need a new coffee filter. If you don't have a coffee filter, let me know and we can start to formulate a plan for a backup filtering option. Hopefully you do have a coffee filter though.
Yes, I have a coffee filter.
Okay, good. We're gonna set this one aside for a minute. Let this strain as best we can. You kind of see what's coming through here.
My thing.
All right. And we're gonna come back for our paloma second. Just give me a second here.
We have
Let
one
me-
more minute to finish pouring.
I apologize. Say that again.
Could we just have another minute to finish pouring?
Yeah, you actually do, because I'm going to take a second and straighten up, get rid of some of the containers here from the last drink.
Thank you.
So let's take a second. Let's get our mise en place together, and then we'll come back.
I just doubled the whiskey.
Hint, I put a rubber band around the coffee filter to hold it in place.
Rubber band works perfectly there. Awesome.
Idea.
check the chat, see if there's any questions in the chat. Not so much, okay. Have another sip of the sour here. How are the pouring and straining going? I see one looks good there. All right, great job, Shelly and Cheryl. Wonderful. All right. Ready to move on? Anybody still having issues or questions? All right, let's move on to our paloma. Everyone's ready? Good. So the paloma drink was also another one that I gave 2 different variations on ways to make it. I am a huge, your coffee, hold on 1 second, your coffee filter dissolved. That is, all right. If you have the ability to show me sort of what you mean on that, that I've never heard that. So if it dissolved and you had an issue where everything sort of came back together, you could pour it through, you could sort of start the process of, if you're using a strainer, you want that to be as fine of a strainer as possible. I can hang on for a minute, yes. Let me answer some of these questions in the chat here. So if you are using a strainer, like this right here is a pretty standard mesh strainer size. You're not going to catch everything out on that. Even if you have the finest mesh strainer, it's still going to let some particles go through. Cheesecloth would work. In a pinch, you could try pouring it through a paper towel. I think that might work as a substitute. So why don't you try a paper towel, and maybe start with just 2 layers of it and see how that works. And if anybody is having issues and can have has like their camera and they want to show me, I can probably get a better idea of what happened there. So the straining process doesn't need to finish. We're going to let that continue to strain while we're making our paloma and come back to it in just a minute. All right. How are we looking? Can we move forward?
Sure.
Coin's good?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll let the straining process continue for just a second. If anyone's still having any issues, If anyone's still having issues with the straining, well, I'm happy to kind of revisit that in just a second and see what we need to do to catch you up. But just for a second, let's move to the Paloma. Now this cocktail, I did 2 variations for you again, based on whether you wanted to have mezcal or not. I really like mezcal. I'm a huge fan of smoky liquors, though. I enjoy scotch. It's probably my favorite thing to drink. So mezcal is something that fits for me. If you do not want to make it with the mezcal, you can just make it with the tequila. It's entirely up to you. There are 2 recipes there. One includes mezcal, one does not. I would suggest smell it. Maybe take a sip of it. See if it's something that you would like. I would urge you to try it. You have enough to make one with and one without. But it does give it a really nice depth of flavor to the cocktail. I think the smokiness plays really well with the cinnamon, the grapefruit, and the honey. This is not a traditional Paloma. There are some artistic licenses taken here. I like instead of doing plain simple syrups, I use the sweetener as a way to add in different flavors. So instead of just doing a plain simple syrup, we're using cinnamon honey as our sweetener here. Cinnamon and grapefruit go really well together. It's a classical pairing that goes back to tiki style cocktails with Trader Vic. That was one of their most common pairings. Spice and fruit really pairs well together in cocktails. So grapefruit, cinnamon is a perfect combination. So we're using that as a little bit of a variation on the normal cocktail. Let's get our shaker. All right, and again, we're going to start with we're going to end with our liquors. So starting off, I'm doing the recipe with mezcal. Again, there's not much variation in the technique. It's just, do you want to cut your tequila with mezcal? Now, if you really like mezcal, you can do this drink with full mezcal. You don't have enough mezcal in this cocktail in the kit, but if you want to do it with 1.5 ounces of mezcal instead of tequila, if you have a bottle of mezcal, please go ahead. By the way, this mezcal is Oaxaca. It's a really nice mezcal. In terms of mezcal, this one is 40 at the state store. It's at some state stores. Most of them that you'll see are 50 and above because of the process that it takes to make mezcal. This one is one of the best values that I've seen in the market for mezcal. And while we're doing this, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about what mezcal is and how that differs from tequila once we kind of get this moving. So to start off, 1/4 ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 ounce of cinnamon honey. And for cinnamon honey, it's again 1-to-1 water and honey. And when you heat it up, you add cinnamon sticks. When you're making a cinnamon flavored infusion, do not use powdered cinnamon. If you do, your infusion will get lumpy. The cinnamon does not really play well with liquid. So you'll get a lumpy, clumpy. I'm going for smoky. Should I put a full bottle of the ingredient in? No, you still only want to do a 1/2 ounce of mezcal. That bottle is 1 ounce. So it's enough for 2 people to do the mezcal version. So if you want this, I mean, sure, if you want to, go ahead. But that's not the recipe. Question about how long do you keep the cinnamon in the honey? When I'm making it, I'm putting it in when the honey and water mixture is still warm, so it's steeping there. After that, like once this is cold, there's not really too much infusion going on. You can actually take the cinnamon stick out, use it as a garnish if you'd like, dry it out and put it in your sugar if you want. Whatever you'd like to do. But once the mixture is cool, there is still a little bit of infusion, but not as much as was infusing when the mixture was warm. Let's see, next 3/4 ounce of ruby red grapefruit. I much prefer ruby red to the tan stuff. I think the flavor is much more rounded. Now with mezcal, with our restaurants, we will typically cut mezcal and tequila together. We have not had much success selling straight mezcal drinks, so we'll do like we were doing in this cocktail, where we're doing an ounce of tequila and a half ounce of mezcal. That seems to be something that people are open to, without kind of scaring off people that are hesitant for mezcal too much. Now, the difference between tequila and mezcal is just a couple of things. They're both made from agave. Tequila is more specifically Weber blue agave, so just one species of agave. They are centered in different parts of Mexico, while tequila is made in Jalisco. Mezcal production is centered in Oaxaca, which is much further south. The process is also different in that with tequilas, they take the pina, which is the gigantic agave plant. Once the leaves have been cut off, they are then cut in half. They're 45 pounds, huge plant. What they'll do is they'll take the pinas, they'll cut them in half, and for tequila, they'll steam them to get the juice out. For mezcal, they will cook them underground so that the smoke that is produced in the process stays trapped with the pinas and the juice. So you still get that smoky flavor from the cooking process in the production. So that's where the smoky flavor is coming from, and that's where you also get higher production costs because of that. It's much harder to do than it is to do it just in an oven. Sometimes you also see for mezcal production, this isn't necessarily all of them, but you'll see the sort of the donkey crushing the smoked pinas going around in a circle. That is something you'll see with mezcal production. A couple of, just to dispel a couple of rumors, the worm in the bottom of a mezcal bottle is not something that I really see anymore. That was kind of a marketing thing from a decade and a half ago or so. Mezcal has come a long way from that. It is much more of a quality spirit that you'll find out there. You actually find different versions of mezcal out there. If you see a version called elote, Mezcal Vago actually makes a really nice elote version. That is where they steep the final mezcal product with roasted corn, and that is typically used for celebrations in Mexico, if you get a chance to try an elote version. So everything is in here. We have our tequila, mezcal, grapefruit juice, cinnamon honey, lemon juice. At this point, all we have left to do is add some ice. And shake. Also put some ice in as well. Now, I prefer a little less soda when we get to it, so I'm just using a rock glass. If you like more soda in your Paloma, you can use a highball glass and have a higher amount of soda mixed in just a few minutes. So pour over ice. And then you have a grapefruit soda in the kit. And this can just go right on top. Just as a little top there. And then you have an orange for a garnish. Now there is something that I like to do for a garnish on a drink like this. So just do it like that. And we didn't put this in the kits. I wasn't sure on everyone's. It's a little hesitant on liability for giving people flammable things. So what I like to do for a drink like this is instead of just putting a straight citrus wedge on top, I like to brulee some citrus. So I'm going to take a wheel of of orange there. Put some sugar on top and just hit it with a torch. And this is really for aromatics. I think it's sort of the unsung part of cocktails is the aromatics right before you take a sip of your drink. You're not going to be drinking this part of it, but you want that smell of burnt sugar is really nice on a drink like this. So I'm going to torch the sugar on top of the citrus until it's a golden brown all the way around. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's what it would look like on top of a creme brulee as well. And that'll just sit on top of our drink. Just like that. And that'll actually be brittle in just a few minutes. You can eat it if you'd like. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Something a little bit smoky, sweet with a hint of spice and just that nose of burnt caramel is a nice well-rounded drink for me. If you want to do this without club soda, perfectly fine. If you want to do this with plain club soda, you can do that. That's more traditional to the recipe. I like grapefruit soda. Some versions have a more grapefruit flavor in their grapefruit soda. There is a Q brand sodas, does a really nice grapefruit soda, and that's like a pink flavored, pink colored soda. So there's a little more grapefruit flavor going on there. But again, it's all up to your preference and what you like. Any questions about the Paloma? How's it coming out for people? Did anyone try mezcal for the first time and is now a convert?
Convert.
We are converts.
Awesome.
It's
If I
very
turn
good.
one person on to mezcal, I've done my job for the day.
My first time trying it, but not at all.
Two converts.
2 converts. Awesome.
It was a nice addition to it. I don't think I'd like it straight.
Yeah,
Right.
perfect.
I agree.
All right.
Oh, God. Ooh.
Let's check on our mixture here. By the looks of things, you may have more than 2 drinks on that one. So the good thing with a drink like this is a really nice drink to make, or a style of drink to make if you're having a get-together where you want to make a drink in advance. This drink, once it's finished, is essentially ready to serve. You can put this in a bottle, keep it in the refrigerator, and just pour it over ice, and that is your complete cocktail. So it doesn't take too much for someone to have during a party. I am always trying to find a way to make drinks for an event where they don't have to do much, and I don't have to worry about ice diluting a drink and ruining the drink for a half hour from now. So I want to come up with recipes that either incorporate the dilution that we would normally have in shaking a drink in the beginning of the recipe, or I want to make it so that it doesn't need that dilution, so people can just pour it from something that's where it's already chilled. It drives me crazy when I see like for ease of simplicity, like a punch bowl with a big ice block in it where it's melting and the drink tastes different at the beginning of the party than it does at the end of the party. So what we're going to do now is just take off our filter. There will be a little bit liquid left. It's perfectly fine. If you want to let that steep a little or let that straight a little longer, you can. Do not squeeze it though. You are really going to risk popping the coffee filter and everything just sort of being ruined. So do not squeeze it. You take what you've got, set this aside if you'd like. If you'd like to strain it further, you certainly can. I don't know how much more you're going to get out of it, but we can put this in a strainer and set it to the side. So we have our mixture here. Anyone need me to stop for just a second?
Cheers.
Could you go back for just a minute? I'm sorry, but
Sure,
so
yes.
you just took the strainer out, right? That's all you did?
So all I did was took the coffee filter out. I had a
Yeah.
coffee filter in here. We've taken the coffee filter out.
What if
Okay.
there's still stuff like, do we press out any liquid? If
No,
there's-
do not press out your liquid. If you do that, you are liable to get some of the liquid that's still in the coffee filter set out. If you
Okay.
so in a normal setting, you want to let this sit for an hour. As much as I think you would love hanging out with me for the next hour, watching this drip down, we're going to speed up the process a little bit. So let's take the coffee filter
Okay.
out, put it in a new container so that we can access our liquid here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's more about let's just try the drink together than it is necessarily throwing everything out.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be much left though. You will have, it's not going to go completely bone dry inside the strainer. So we have, if I'm guessing, looks maybe 10 ounces there. And a serving is going to be 3 ounces on this drink. So you should have more than enough for 2 drinks at this point. How's everyone doing on that? Any questions? Anyone need me to see anything, or how are we looking? All right, so this cocktail has a really easy next step. All we are doing is taking 3 ounces of this mixture and putting it into our mixing glass. Set that aside. Add some ice. And it's just a couple of swirls just to chill it down. We don't need to shake this one. If you don't have a mixing glass, doing this in a shaker is perfectly fine. You just do not need to shake it. You don't want to shake it. You've spent all this time clarifying this liquid. If you shake it, you're going to make it all cloudy again. So this is definitely a stirring cocktail. I prefer a stemmed glass for this one. We've stirred our liquid, and now we're just going to pour it straight over. And if you remember what we started with, a really acidic, thick liquid, and now we are left with a not completely transparent, but much more clear cocktail. Our garnish here is just going to be a peel of citrus. So I'm going to take make sure everyone can see this here. Take the rest of the orange here. Peel off a wedge like this. And the way that you're going to express this orange peel, and this works with almost any citrus. You're going to take it, hold it over top of your glass. I'm going to do this sideways so you can see. So I'm going to hold it with the outside facing out, and I'm going to pinch it right over the glass. And if you can see, you'll see that the oils have come out of the side of the peel and spray right on top of our glass. You can also then rub the side of the glass on the rim, or the side of the peel on the rim. You do not want to rub the inside. This, where the pith is the bitter side. You don't want to rub that side at all. And then you could just sort of lean it on the side. I don't like to drop it in. That's me. You don't really need it anymore. You just discard it. At this point, it's done its job. It's the purpose of that is just to give it a little bit of a bright acidity right on the finish that you're going to smell right on the nose. You can do this with a lemon, a lime, anything you'd like. And that is our coconut milk wash passion fruit pina colada. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for trying new things tonight. I assume most people, the milk washing was something new. Any questions?
When we added the egg white to the drink, like,
Mhm.
will that go bad after a little bit of time, or it doesn't? It'll be fine.
So the egg white, like in terms of like, let's say you're sitting here and over the course of 30 minutes, is that what you're talking about? Or
No, a little
Longer
bit
than
longer,
that.
possibly, yeah. Well, if
So-
you mix a certain amount and then it's just sort of sitting there before you get to pour it all,
so
is egg
what'll
white still safe?
The egg whites are still safe. What
Okay.
will happen though is, and this is my sour that was sitting from a little while ago, it will start to really separate.
Right.
So egg white drinks that are done like this really do need to be consumed inside of, let's say, a half hour.
Okay.
After that, the liquid and the foam on top will almost, they're almost like two separate ingredients at some point. Like, let me see if you can kind of see. So you see how I'm tilting this glass and the liquid on the bottom is moving, but the foam
Right.
is just sort of stuck there?
All right.
Yeah, it's not really connected anymore. It's not together. So that is what you risk by letting a completed egg white drink sit. And really any foam is going to do this. It's not going to stay in complete suspension forever. We haven't added any stabilizer to it to really make it do it. So that there's nothing that keeps that bond and that foam staying together for any long period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Still tastes good though.
Does taste good.
You just don't get the foam with it. You're gonna need a spoon to get the foam out there.
It's very good.
Any other questions? Let me see. Nothing in the notes.
Back to the whiskey sour, just checking the recipe real quick. Is it 2 ounces of whiskey in a whiskey sour or 4?
2 ounces in a whiskey sour.
Okay.
So a lot
Right.
of our recipes are either 2 ounces or 1.5 ounces of spirit. I don't usually go lower than 1.5 for a base spirit. Sometimes it's 1.5 of base spirit and then a half ounce of a secondary spirit. And 2 ounces is really the most we do for a cocktail. Like some martinis are more than that, but that's really as high as we go for most cocktails.
Gotcha.
All right, so I know most of the people in this class are new, but for some people that did the first class with us, we did some improvements from the first class to the second class, and I even think that we can make some improvements off of this to our next class. Does White Dog normally serve these drinks? We serve variations of these drinks. So the paloma is a cocktail that we did called Hide Your Lying Eyes at Mishulu a year or so ago. The passion fruit pina colada we did at, I want to say that was an autograph and Louis cocktail last winter. The whiskey sour is that was more of like a base whiskey sour. We didn't do too much to change that drink. So they are cocktails that sometimes you'll see on the, got it, okay. I understand what you mean about the container there. Thank you. I will improve that for next time. So the next class, while I have everyone here, is scheduled for the 26th. And we're going to do winter warmer drinks. So it is a hot toddy, a gin punch, which is like a warm gin punch. And then we're going to do a alcoholic hot chocolate as well. So that was what we have planned for the next class. Tickets are already up for that, and we'll probably do some email blasts as well. If anyone has any additional feedback, I welcome it. I am looking to improve on this every single time we do it. I know I still need to work. I need to figure out something with the cameras where I can sort of alternate between each picture and make it so that everyone has that picture pinned when we're on that sort of camera. And that's something I'm going to work on this week and see if I can figure that out for the next one. But I certainly welcome any feedback you can give me to help improve it for the next one. Perfect. Actually, that's an awesome question. Susan, thank you. So you asked about equipment. I am actually looking to put together a equipment set that we could sell. And my goal for that would be to make it so that it is actually more, because I can get it through sort of restaurant supply companies, I can hopefully get it to a price where it'd be cheaper to buy a set from us than it would be to buy it off of the internet. So if I'm able to do that, is that something that people would be interested in? The equipment set, okay.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so let me, okay, wow, that lots of yeses there. All right, that'll be my project for this week. That'll be my project for this week. I will look into what I can do for equipment. It'll probably be like a 6-piece set where we're talking about like a strainer, a mesh strainer, a jigger, like this Japanese style jigger here, shaker set. So let me work on that this week. I'll see what I can do and get that out as soon as possible.
Would you email us and let us know that you have it, or how would we find out that it's available?
If we can do that, it will probably be on the same, I have to, that's something that I will probably talk to them about, where it'll probably be like an additional, maybe it's an additional ticket.
Oh, I see.
Where it's part of the pickup for a class where you can buy either a plane ticket or equipment. Maybe something like that would work.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so a couple questions coming in here. Let me make sure I can catch up on all of them. Are we able to get the recipes from the last time? Yes, you can. If you want to send me an email or send an email to the, you should, on your ticket, you should be able to respond to that email. If you have any recipe requests, please just send me an email and I will respond to anything there. Want to try the coquito? Absolutely. Food pairings, awesome. Give me 1 second. Let me just catch up, see. Awesome. A later start time. Okay.
Oh, that would be good.
I see someone skipping ahead of the champagne class in 4 weeks.
Good. Champagne class.
I actually have a question about that. So 2 things. I saw there's a question about food pairings. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. For the champagne class, would you, if you were thinking about doing the champagne class, would you be interested in multiple levels of champagne to buy? So, okay, there's a question, champagne class. So the next class on the 26th is a winter warmers where we're doing 3 hot cocktails. The following class after that, I think the 7th of February, forgive me if my dates are wrong. 9th, thank you, is a, it's the Tuesday before Valentine's Day, and we're working on champagne cocktails for that one. So it's gonna be like a French 75, Bellini mimosa, and then we're gonna do a fizz cocktail with the champagne. So in regards to champagne class, would you folks be interested in sort of like multiple levels of champagne? So like sort of our house champagne would be the $45 and $60 one, and then we could do a secondary one and maybe even a third price level where maybe it's like Veuve Clicquot or something like that. Okay, I'm seeing some yeses on that.
Yes.
All right, multiple levels, good. All right, so got great answers on the champagne and equipment. I'm gonna get to food questions. Are the lemon and lime juices fresh squeezed? Yes, they are. We buy them in bulk, fresh squeeze at the restaurant. If you want to make in bulk, how long will the sour mix keep for? With the sugar added, it will help it a bit. I don't know that you want to go more than say like 3 to 5 days. And we're talking about like chilled, sealed container. Can I vary the day of the week? Let me look into that. I don't know yet about that. I see vodka martini. Make all the drinks with the champagne, with any of the champagne, but yes, your question. Class on martinis or Manhattans, awesome. Weekdays are good. And then, okay, so food pairings. I don't want to forget that question from Stephanie. Okay, so food pairings. For the last lesson, I don't mean to repeat for people that were at both classes. I think that food pairings for cocktails is a lot about what you are putting in somebody's mind to have them think about when they're tasting something. So yes, there are things that go together, but it's a lot about how you are turning someone's attention to. So let's take the whiskey sour, for example. There's definitely some citrus notes. There's citrus notes in all of these cocktails. So you're going to get a lot of the same answers. I don't mean to be repetitive, but it being a citrus class, they're going to pair with lighter dishes. These are going to be a lot of times starter cocktails. You want these appetizers. You want this sort of, you want these bright acidic drinks to sort of be aperitifs and starters for your palate. So they're going to work with light salads. They're going to work as a cocktail that you might have without food, where you're just sort of getting your appetite started. There's not a lot of herbaceous qualities in any of these to be a digestif. The closest thing is really going to be maybe like the whiskey sour with the added bitters, but again, not too much herbaceous qualities. So they're really starter cocktails. As far as food pairings, I like, with the pina colada, I think a lot about things that are going to remind me of the summertime, even though, yes, it is sort of seasonal for winter for us. So something with some fruit, maybe that would go nice with like a dish with bananas. Let's see, the paloma with grapefruit. I think that's your winner for like a salad pair. The whiskey sour, I think that one's it's still gonna be a lighter starter meal, but that one's gonna be if you had an appetizer with something with meat in it. That's where you want to go with the whiskey sour. But all of these drinks really are starter, are going to pair with starters and the beginning of a meal. Hopefully that answered your question, Stephanie. Out of town options. Martini, okay. Might be good to not mix different types of liquor, stick with one type, rum drinks, vodka drinks. Okay. All right.
So the out of town question is really, if we're going to Florida shortly, and we'd love to continue to participate. Obviously, we get our own stuff. Is there maybe a lower price ticket just to participate in the thing, and we'll provide the stuff?
So I'm perfectly fine with you jumping on and just participating without the ingredients. If it's something where you're out of town one week and you want to jump back in and next week, and I can send you the thing for that. Thank you. Yeah, I can work with you on trying to make. It's going to be tough for you to get all the ingredients, I would think, just because you're going to be buying like just take for instance the hot chocolate. Like I'm going to give you a container that has like an ounce of cocoa powder. If you are away, you're going to need to buy a huge thing of Hershey's cocoa powder or something like that to be able to do it. So it will be difficult for you to do all of them, but it's something where maybe you can pick one or two of the drinks and pair, and then do something when you can back into with the other one.
It would actually be for the next class, for the champagne class.
The champagne one. That one's actually probably the easiest one to do because it's going to be champagne and sort of fresh ingredients around that. There might be one drink with an additional liquor, but for the most part, they're going to be, the French 75 has some gin added to it. The fizz will have probably an additional liquor, but not too much there. So that might be one where we can work it out. And that gives me some time to work on some ideas for you so that you can continue to participate.
Great.
Awesome. How about old fashioned? We can definitely do old fashioned variations on one of them. So we're through to the 9th with planning with the next 2 classes. After that, it sounds like we're looking for a lot of like martinis, old fashions, things like that. So I'll work on that for the next class idea. Coffee cocktails. Oh, great. I love coffee cocktails. Let's see. To use Burberry comparisons, absolutely. Awesome. A lot of great suggestions here. Thank you, everyone who has stayed through and participated here. Later in the week. Got it. Okay. At some point, the restaurants will be opening as well, so this might make it a little easier to do this. Do I ever smoke old fashions? So for something like that, if I'm smoking, I'm actually going to smoke the glass. Yep, that's what my preference is to do. If you've been to Autograph or Louis Louis, we have a smoked Sazerac where we take absinthe sprayed on the inside of the glass, and then we have a cherry wood board where we torch the board with star anise on top of the board and put the glass over top of it, and the smoke will stick to the absinthe in the glass, and you'll get it to linger as you're drinking it. Sake cocktails, okay. That definitely is a little bit of a niche ingredient, but that's awesome. I love sake. Yeah, for smoking glasses, that's definitely what you want to do. You want to have something that the smoke can stick to. So whether we use an atomizer, which you can get. Actually, at most drugstores, they'll have like a CVS or something. They'll have like a plastic atomizer bottles that you can use for makeup or whatever. And you can just put your liquor in that and just spritz the inside of the glass with absinthe. That's exactly the amount you need, and you won't have that much waste. Really important when you're smoking a glass, make sure the board that you use is not treated. Also, make sure you know that the wood that you're using. You want to use like fruit or nut trees. Cherry wood, maple wood, oak are all suitable woods to use for smoking glass. Think of anything you might see like wood chips made from. Do not use conifer trees for smoking anything. The smoke from that is actually poisonous, so you don't want to use anything like that for smoking glasses. Okay, and then you don't want to use anything that is treated. So if you're getting like a board at a kitchen supply store, something like that, a lot of those boards have been treated with something. You don't want to light those. You want to get something from maybe even like a Home Depot, or better yet, a lumber yard where you know that the wood is untreated.
I was just going to say that we have hickory chips, like for barbecuing, which
you can
smoking.
You can. Hickory is certainly suitable. The issue with hickory is it's going to be the flavor is so heavy barbecue. It's so much. It reminds you so much of barbecue that it is very overpowering.
Okay.
I like a soft smoke, like a maple or cherry. Those to me, and they also add flavors that are typical with cocktails. Like just torching the maple wood, it almost smells sweet. It really is a nice addition. So those are ones you can use hickory, and for some cocktails it will work, but it will overpower others.
Okay, thank you. We actually sent away for Maker's Mark barrel.
Oh, you did?
Flanking.
I've been trying. So I have an invitation to get down there and do a barrel with them where we would do a Maker's Mark 46. And and they would make a barrel with us, and we can choose the char. And that was something we had planned for earlier this year, and earlier last year. And as it turned out, something distracted us from that.
There's also, we sort of know the owner of Key West Distillery down, it's a rum distillery. If you ever go down there, that's very interesting. And how they use different barrels for doing the rum.
So would you consider sharing a basic list of alcohol and syrups to have on hand? Absolutely. If you want, just send a quick email there, and I'll put together sort of like maybe like a top 12 ingredient list that is sort of, to me, like a basic list. Yeah, anybody that emails anything there, I'll be sure to go through those as quickly as I can to get as many answers as possible. One thing to think about when you're getting the liquor from what's available to restaurants is a little different than what's available to consumers in this state. So sometimes the liquors that I can get through special liquor order are a little bit more challenging for other folks to get in PA. But everything is still available. It just takes a little bit of time and patience. By the way, if you folks haven't realized, I will continue on. If you keep asking me questions, we can go until 11 o'clock at night. I have plenty for me to drink here, so do not hesitate. We have a lineup every day back when I used to work, and we would have days where we would just get to start talking about bourbon, and our lineups usually end at 5 o'clock, and then you turn around and 5:45 is around, and people are just talking about bourbon, and I'm down to do that. I have nothing to do, so I am free. I had a question here. What was the tequila? Tequila was Hornitos. That is our typical cocktail tequila. So we use Bacardi for the rum, Hornitos for the tequila, Beam for the bourbon, and Oaxaca for the mezcal. Do we have Weller's at Haverford? We do not. We have some Weller product at Louis and Autograph, but that is like the lottery, like the William H. Weller. My role at Fearless, I am the beverage director for the company. So pretty much anything that has to do with beverages, I have something to do with. Oops. I am happy to pour myself a little scotch, and we can keep going as much as you'd like. Any other questions? How many different bourbons in Haverford? So Haverford has, I want to say it's about like maybe a dozen different bourbons on their list. Let's see here. I can actually pull up their list right now. They have about a dozen. It's not the White Dog's bourbon lists are not as extensive as they are at Autograph. Autograph really has a huge whiskey list on their back bar. What's a bourbon you can buy that is outside the usual? All right, great question. So my favorite, so I am going to give you a little bit of a geek answer on this one. My favorite bourbon that is out of the ordinary is Jefferson's Ocean. I really love Jefferson's products, but their Ocean product is particularly enjoyable to me. So what they do is they take Jefferson's barrels and they put them on the back of tanker ships that then make at least 6 trips across the equator. So it'll take a trip to South Africa, go back up to the Northern Hemisphere and back and forth 6 different times. And what that does is that allows a temperature change from the Northern Hemisphere to really hot at the equator to really cold in the Southern Hemisphere and then back up. And all that temperature change is taking its toll on the bourbon in the barrel. There's extraction from the wood. The whiskey is picking up the sea air. And after that trip, the bourbon has a really delicious flavor to it from all that wood extraction. And also it has like a hint of salinity to it that is really nice. That is my nerd bourbon that I really enjoy. That is available at most stores. It is a little bit on the expensive side. Let's say it's like 75. So I understand. What I would suggest for a less expensive, more of like a value bourbon that I would suggest. 1 second here. What scotch am I drinking tonight? Wife bought a bottle, Jefferson's Ocean. Love, yeah. That bottle doesn't stick around very long. Let's see. Like a house level bourbon that I really like. See, Wild Turkey Rare Breed at like $50 is another one that is semi-common and available, but really delicious. And then I also like the Elijah Craig as sort of a more available bottle, but on a value end. We actually did a single barrel with Elijah Craig that we'll be releasing at the restaurants within the next couple, probably as soon as we open. What scotch am I drinking tonight? Let's see. My scotch lately, my favorite is Ardbeg. Angel's Envy is delicious. Angel's Envy is fantastic. Ardbeg is my scotch of choice. This is the Ugadale, but it is delicious. This one is not, I don't know if this one's still available, but that would be what I am drinking tonight. As you can tell, I like things really smoky and peaty. See, would we ever offer wine tasting and food pairing events? We've done some of them. Typically, those are something that a guest has come to us and wanted to host an event like that. It's not something that we're usually doing to try and promote and selling tickets for. This is actually the first type of an event that we've done where we are selling tickets to just a cocktail thing. And our idea was that this would be popular because there are a lack of options for people, and that this venue is really suitable for people that want to still do things but don't really have the ability to, or because of circumstances outside of our control aren't able to. When the restaurants are back open to full capacity, I would love to see that this venue is still popular. I don't know what's going to happen. So that remains to be seen. As far as something in the restaurant, though, if you reached out and wanted to plan something, I could definitely work with you and try to do a pairing event. Is that what you were talking about, Lauren, or were you meaning more like a dinner that we would host and sell tickets to? Let's see. So, okay, so something that we would host at the restaurant. We typically don't do that. Maybe the success of these type of events will let us know that there is an avenue for that. Every time we've done sort of smaller groups where we've had people say that they want to do a pairing for a group of friends and it's 12 people, it's been successful. So this could lend credence to that being an ongoing thing. Gin night, sure. We have a couple suggestions for the next couple of cocktails. I love gin. You are not going to hear me complaining about doing a gin night, so that is definitely in the works, and I can suggest a couple of gins, and hopefully that are available for us to do when we get to that night. Any other questions? I think I've addressed everything so far. Awesome. thank you all again very much. Where did my drink go? No. It's been a real pleasure for everyone. Thank you very much for staying around and hanging out with me. Perfect. Yeah, I'm open to keeping them. If everyone keeps, if you folks keep coming to these, I assure you we will probably keep doing them. So that is good news for this. Great. Glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Love doing 10-1 in person. Okay. Yeah, once we get open, we can start talking about what this could look like in the future. We're kind of, each week is new for us, and each week we're getting more comfortable with this. So we'll see once we get open if there's a market for it, and if we can keep it going, I'd love to. Awesome. Yeah, Diageo is definitely they part of Southern, and that's who we work with for a lot of our spirits. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you again with the next one.